The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us. It's 11 o'clock Mountain Time. That means it's good morning to some and good afternoon to others. So a very cordial good morning and good afternoon to you guys. Thanks for joining our higher education webinar. We gave one about a year ago. It's probably changed a little bit. So we're going to be talking about how to bring your campus and culture to life virtually through digital marketing. And I've got two esteemed partners. If my slide would advance, that'd be really nice. And advance only one slide, not two. Got Megan Bakur on the line, Client Services Manager out in LA, so it's a good morning to her. Good morning there, Megan.
Good morning.
All right. She's been with us for quite some time, and she's, we were just talking right before this. She's got her dog in her lap right now because it won't get away from her. So the time she's living through these times. Then Maria Coleman's on the line. She is a Ohio State addict, OH.
Hi-oh.
You sound so enthusiastic. It's your school. Come on. I don't care
Oh,
about.
I love it there, but
Yeah. Maria actually used to answer the line for Ask a Buckeye, so it's kind of cool there. And Megan, I forgot to mention, she is front line with many of the universities and colleges we work with. So happy to have her on the line as well. And this voice you're hearing here, I am Bob, and I've been around digital marketing for quite some time, and usually just like to say what that means is I'm just getting old. So before I just get into what we're going to talk about, a little bit of housekeeping. Everybody seems to ask, are you going to record this? Yes, we're recording it. We will be sending it out to you. You'll have that there in a nice follow-up email. So if you missed something, didn't catch that note, you're going to have the whole recording and video right there for you. Other housekeeping is I hurt my back. So if I pause and all of a sudden I wince or something and you hear a weird noise, it's because I moved in the wrong direction and my back acted up. Just to give you a little bit of color commentary on the side. So what are we going to talk about? You know, there's certainly a lot of buzz out there on what's going on. We're going to certainly touch on that as well. So we'll talk about the state of education, the shifts in school selection, how people are looking at that, what we're doing moving forward, the state of digital marketing, what's going on that, and really focusing a lot on marketing success. I'm going to go pretty fast to start, and then we're going to slow down and kind of, dive into some areas that I think are going to be a little bit more big takeaways for you. What I always like to say about Ad Taxi webinars is we try to give you 3, 5, 7 big takeaways. You go, heck yeah, I'm glad I spent an hour with these guys or 45 minutes, however long this one goes. But we want to make it worth your while. We want to give you some tactical solutions, some key takeaways, things that you can say, now I can really help my school, and I appreciate this. And of course, we'd love for you to be a client as well. I mean, that's a side note. Hey, so I'm going to hand it right over to Maria on that. So thanks, and Maria, take it away.
Yep. Thank you, Bob. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you for everyone who is joining us today. We know education in particular is really experiencing quite an interruption in normalcy. I think we all feel that way, but I do think education specifically, there is a lot going on. There are a lot of question marks. So we're going to try to address kind of where we're at and how we can help you move forward and be strategic with what you're doing, because we know it's very fluid right now. So first, we want to just talk about COVID-19 and how it has interrupted everything. Obviously, like I said, it's interrupted our lives completely, but for education institutions, I think you are experiencing just a lot of different things coming from every angle. So all aspects on campus are being impacted, the way you do business, what students can expect, how they're going to take classes, living arrangements. I mean, the list goes on and on. Communication changes rapidly, and obviously you know that. And I think one thing we want to point out throughout our presentation is that it's something you're going to have to continue to update. Just be really transparent with students and parents and let them know what you're doing. And I think authenticity, and that's going to be a common theme, is really important right now. If you don't know something, just say, hey, we're working on this, we don't have a response. And I think that, the messaging saying you're unsure and you're working on it is better than not addressing it. So again, we're going to get into just some messaging and things like that. Funding, kind of a sensitive topic, I'm sure, because there's we're seeing some funding cut, and as we're possibly going into a recession, this is something that's going to affect how you reach out to students and what your services look like. And then, what does a campus look like in the fall? In person, online, a hybrid of those two, and that's going to really alter how you reach out to students and parents. I think, we've obviously worked with a lot of clients, but we read a lot with this kind of thing because it's changing all the time. Even today, I read, since obviously I'm in Ohio right now, Kent State is going to do 60-40, 60% online, 40% in person, and that's really going to change what they say to students and how they promote their programs. So that is a big factor, and also just kind of what the criteria are. I know, again, I saw another article today, Ohio University is no longer requiring standardized test scores. You can submit them, you don't have to. And what's that going to look like for students? Will that allow more people to apply and whatnot? So we're going to talk about a little bit of how you can address these. We found some great information, and this was actually updated yesterday. So it's a great slide just to give you some perspective on, what people are thinking. I'm sure you kind of are trying to keep a pulse on it, but again, it's changing so fast. Overall, roughly 68% of colleges are planning for an in-person instruction this fall. But again, we're all kind of wait and see and kind of hoping that things improve and continue to improve. But you can see here, 65% of people are planning for an in-person tour right now. That's actually down 3%. It was a little higher. And then this talks about some of the other decisions, planning for online, thinking about a hybrid solution, things like that. So again, we know that people are aware, and that's really going to affect what your campus looks like and how you speak to everyone. And it's also, and we'll get into it as we keep going through these slides, it's also going to affect your push for virtual experience. As we get into some products that will help you, that's going to be the big thing. You really are going to have to beef up your virtual experience. Give them as much as you can that they can access from home. And I think you probably already know that, but we'll talk about some of the how. And this is another slide that goes into insights of just what is going on. And I think this is great information. This is a really pretty new study. It was from the end of March, but as we all know, this probably has changed a little bit since then. But you can see, I know overall college enrollment has been dropping for the past several years, according to the National Student Clearinghouse Research Center. And you can kind of just see what these are, students and parents are keeping top of mind, if they're okay and how effective they feel online classes are and what they're concerned about most. I think one of the stats that really stands out to me, and I'm sure this resonates, is that 93% are more concerned with being able to pay for education, with the job uncertainties and the layoffs and furloughs and all those things. This is, I think, going to be a really hot topic and something we're really going to have to consider when you are working on your campaigns. I think transfer is another big thing, and we've talked a lot about that with other schools. They're seeing a lot of students maybe transfer closer to home or transfer to a community college or, whatever the case may be that fits their life, and that's going to be a big factor as well. So if you look at this, this gives you the parents' insights, and we talked about the students. I think a lot of these cross over. It really depends on who's paying for some of these. When you talk about parents' insights, they're thinking about the, how they can financially contribute and what that's going to look like. I think another one that really stands out and something you can definitely consider when you are working on your strategies is almost 50% of people are concerned about the child's ability to find a job after graduation. That's a great thing to know as a school, is that is a focus, and you want to be able to speak to that. And that gives you opportunities with, job placement opportunities, alumni connections. There's a lot of different things you can do there where other people can kind of help you so you're not taking on the burden of that messaging, you can really leverage outside resources, like I said, alumni and things like that, to speak about what their path looks like from coming to your school. So decision making, from what we've seen from the colleges we've worked with to date, and we have quite a few specifically that we've been working with over the last 5 to 6 months, and we've seen, the drastic shifts. Overall decision making for students, it looks relatively the same. I mean, they have the same focus, but sometimes it's just going to change on a priority level. So as you can see here, these are the main themes, and I'm sure you're aware of, what students and parents are looking for: reputation, environment, location, cost, what's offered, what the process looks like, and post-graduation. As I said, these are changing, and they're actually changing all the time. Location is probably going to be a bigger factor. Cost, obviously, with what finances are available. And like I said, now, I mean, as of today, this article came out, I think, Bob, I sent it to you like an hour ago. The selection process, some schools maybe are not requiring those standardized tests. So that may give students who maybe weren't sure about college or, were a little on the fence, give them maybe more confidence to apply because maybe their ACT score wasn't something they want to highlight, but they did really well overall in college. So this can really impact what your audience looks like.
Yeah, that could have helped me some time ago.
Yeah. And Bob and I talked about this, really interesting for you, college, college admissions and things like that. What does that look like for you? How does that change your process? There's a lot of questions. I think it could help a lot of people out, but it's really interesting. And again, this goes back to some pre-COVID things and what was the main focus. The main ones are always going to be their reputation, things like that. But another thing we found is that people are looking not only for financial assistance, but a more overall package. Some things we saw were that, some students said, well, this place offered me a great scholarship, but the overall financial plan at, maybe a local in-state school is going to cost me less as a whole rather than that, big scholarship, the school I wanted to go to. And people are just kind of reassessing, what their decisions are and what is a priority. Obviously, a visit to campus, and like I said, you're going to really have to bring campus to them. I think there's a lot of great ways to do that. And even if they do plan on visiting campus, we have seen, most people, especially if they're going to make a trip, they do a lot of research anyway. So you want to make sure that visual experience is there in your marketing and on your site, so they get a real feel before they commit to even doing that. So that was, like Bob said, we're trying to get to the good stuff. So that was just a quick overview. Moving forward, well, what does that look like for you? I think it's going to look a little different for pretty much every school right now. It's going to depend on what you're thinking for the fall. It's going to depend on what happens between now and fall as far as, are we seeing less COVID, people being hospitalized and things like that. If we're seeing that go down, what happens? So there's a lot of things you probably have already done, and these are really great. And these are just something we want to highlight. Messaging, obviously, you don't want to ignore what's going on. Being authentic is huge. Talking about, hey, we acknowledge this is going on. These are things we've done on campus. These are ways we're going to help your children or, help you as a student with the health concerns or just being a student remotely, what that looks like. Your website, specifically the homepage, is now really going to be a hub for you. I think it's always obviously been important, but now specifically it's a great place for it to be. You can continually update, hey, here's what we're seeing. People are going to go there to see, what's new and aren't going to want to dig around. So really important that your site structure and what that looks like. Some other great things we've seen is getting engagement from places outside of your marketing team. As a marketer myself, it has been a little overwhelming since we started. COVID hit about mid-March because you're cranking out material and trying to help people as fast as possible. In a college, I think the great thing is you have a lot of resources, and it's important to tap those. Talk to faculty. They are seeing these students every day. They're hearing concerns. they really have their finger on the pulse of what's going on. So they're a great place to get some, video content or any kind of ideas on content. When I talked about authenticity, student engagement is great. We'll get into it later, but have your students, shoot some footage for you you can use. It doesn't have to be perfect and super clean. It just needs to feel real. And that goes into the virtual experience as well. Financial consideration, obviously we talked about that. That is definitely going to be a huge factor right now. And the authenticity. People, we all know we kind of live in this world of live chat and things like that. So people aren't necessarily expecting everything to be super clean, super polished all the time. They like the feeling of, hey, this is what campus really feels like. This is what a student really experiences.
Yeah, I thought it was cool on one thing I was kind of listening to. They're talking about students for the virtual tour was they were walking around and giving the tour themselves. So you had a one-on-one experience. It wasn't just go videotape this and broadcast it. It was you set up the meeting, they walked around, showed video, and talked about the campus at the same time. So very authentic, good stuff, and a way to kind of leverage that experience when you're talking about leveraging students as well. So.
Yeah, and I think those real life tours that you can provide, like Bob said, you can schedule a tour with someone who can give it to you virtually, show you around campus, speak to you directly. Those are also things you can repurpose and, make sure you're thinking about what you're getting and how you can use it in other ways. We don't want to live in a spot where everything you do is COVID related. You want to be able to use it, a longer shelf life. So now we're going to talk a little bit about getting your message out and promoting that virtual experience. And I am going to kick it over to you guys to kind of get into that.
Sure. As it says here, after all, we are a digital marketing company. We should probably talk about those kind of things and how we can help you out. Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, we're going to talk about the state of digital marketing, what's going on out there, kind of give you a lay of the land, and then Megan's going to talking a little bit more about the products that we're seeing really help people out historically and in these times as well. So what I was thinking about the other day is that this whole shift isn't just like I've been through when we went from print to internet. That was a whole shift of digital to digital marketing and a whole shift of mindset of how to market. Now it's just accelerating. So it's accelerating digital marketing. Now, if anything, it's going to say, I really need to get some videos up. I need to get streaming up. And this is what this shift did to those platforms. Here's some of the winners in this COVID shift to more digital and consuming more information. So streaming, just Nielsen's put this out and said, in times of crisis, we've seen snowpocalypse up in the Northeast, you see hurricanes. When people are hunkered down, streaming goes up. And they did a study across different crises and said streaming goes up 61% on average. This 150% on Tubi increase, I pulled this one because I like it because everybody talks about Netflix and they talk about, the popular platforms, but people stream on a lot of different apps. So this is just one obscure, maybe you haven't heard of, but they've seen a 150% increase in the year and a 54% from February to March. So when you're trying to find your students, your prospective students, there's a lot of different platforms, and here's an obscure one that you might find more of on there, and it's experiencing huge growth. Video. So YouTube, everybody's familiar with that, not like Tubi. And so since March, the time spent on YouTube has increased 44%. That's an astronomical number, just considering that YouTube was already the second leading, they call it the second leading search engine out there. Then when we move into pure social, time spent in a day, which I don't know how these people have so much time in their day, it's gone up from 143 to 184 minutes per day on average spending with social media. And then pulling out of there, Instagram going up 32% since March. So these are kind of the winners in this shift since people have been more stay at home and around the house. We've been a huge advocate of CTV, probably going on 3 years now. And I put this in here because we talk about it a lot. We're about to do another video webinar in July. But connected TV, we've been bullish on this for a while. And this just shows you historically in 2 years, from January 18 to December 19, they had 900% impression increase. So this is a place to get your message out. It's still relatively in its infancy. We're going to talk more about it, but I just want to talk about, we talked about the shift just recently, but historically CTV's been crushing it for a while. And I'm using CTV, pardon the acronym, it's connected TV, if you're not familiar with the acronym. I get caught up in that kind of stuff. Then I always like to draw on eMarketer or other sources for information. Here kind of reinforces, when we talk about Gen Z at this 18 to 24, I don't have younger stats, 71% are using YouTube, Instagram 63%, Snapchat 40%, so big usage on these platforms by the younger generation. As I mentioned earlier, I'm on the older side of that generation, any generation. TikTok, I threw it in here because we mentioned, videos and students creating videos. There was another story as heard about students creating videos on TikTok, and then the university hearing about that, taking that, leveraging that content. So nice user-generated content, UGC, I like to call it SGC, student-generated content. Then you got Instagram, increase of 17%, and Snapchat, 46%. So some very popular platforms seeing tremendous growth with this crisis. This I threw in here it's this industry stat. I think a lot of people get caught up, especially when I hear from like, well, my CEO told me, the industry's doing this, and how are we doing compared to that stat there? Hey, that's fine and dandy. Well, here's a nice industry stat for you. CPMs, according to agencies and ad tech executives, dropped 50%, and now they're returning to normal. Well, hey, do I always have to be with the industry? So let's take a look of what's happening with some of our clients. So what we did with the start of COVID, we said we're going to monitor this, and we looked at it every 2 weeks. What's going on with our clients across the board? Universities, attorneys, plumbers, furniture stores, anybody. We looked at everyone. So what I did here was I looked at different universities and schools and said, let's just kind of take a snapshot of some of these and see how they're doing, because I don't always want to pin it up against that industry stat. So this is what's called our health check report. And note, the dark green line isn't the same school across the way. I took just different schools that might tell a different story. And we're only looking at CPCs and then a win percentage for RTV. So on this first one on the left, you see this green line, holy smokes, these guys, their CPC went through the roof. Well, they changed marketing strategy. So that's going to be a little different. The other ones kind of held to maybe that industry, but still had some different impacts. One held steady on their budget on that light green. And then the blue pulled back on their budget in March and April, and now they're seeing a little bit of an increase. So then we go over, and I'll wrap this up in a way that all makes sense, but just to kind of delve into a little bit of the story here. The dark green pulled back budget and 70% in early March. I don't know if Facebook penalized them, what happened there. It went up. Then we had a big budget increase for the green line, and they saw CPCs go down. And then the light blue heavied up in April. Not much of a difference on that one. For RTB display, it changed the metric because CPCs, cost per click, don't apply to a display ad. But what does is a good indicator of how you're doing is the win percentage. What that means is, very simply, when I put a bid out, how many times am I going to win that bid to get my display ad shown? So you see all of them kind of trending the same, going up and then tapering off a little bit. But they all had different strategies. One pulled their budget 70% early March. Another held steady with their small budget. They had a very small budget, but they held steady with it. The blue one was a little bit interesting. They tested. They went up and down with their budgets because they just said, all we really want to do is hold tight on impressions. And if we, and we can kind of manipulate our budget to hold tight on that. So the takeaway here is that everybody's different. How your strategies are going to change. So don't always pinpoint yourself that I'm not doing just what the industry does. And in all these cases, I talked about what they did with their budget, but they all had different changes to their messaging. They all did something with their messaging. But I didn't want to get too far down the weeds with that, but I did right here a little bit. I took two universities and said, well, let's just see what two people did. So this university in the northern Midwest, we don't like to put out names, no, they prefer we don't. So they moved 85% of their budget in messaging to facilitate online classes. I thought this one was interesting. They increased their geo. They said, well, if people are staying home, they can do this anywhere. So let's increase the scope of where we're trying to reach. Within their search, there's ad extensions. They talked about the CARES Act. They wanted to talk to students about getting funds and make it easier, a good source for that. They focused on their search SEM campaign and their online and higher ed degrees. And this campus right now is still planning on resuming campus come in the fall, but they're still focused on appealing to both campus and online classes. Then this other university, not a big big change here, but in April they added the message for virtual visits, apply for free. Thought that one was, probably have seen that with all these finances. Am I going to really apply and pay for to submit an application? And they talked about their summer courses. Google's doing a thing where dynamic keywords. You put in your keywords, they're going to dynamically display those in your text ads. And we did that, and it resulted in a higher click-through rate and conversions for this business. But what I thought was interesting here is they didn't just recreate everything. They said, what are some of the ads that we ran previously that worked well for us? And how can we just, reuse those? We know they worked, but are they still relevant to this climate that we're in? So here's a couple examples they did. A real college doesn't have to be real expensive. They focused on their nursing and EMT programs, that they have 80 areas of study. These were ads they already had created, as I mentioned, and affordable 2- and 4-year degrees. And this one, they didn't change their targeting. They felt pretty good about what they've done historically. So it was just really going back, seeing what they've done historically successful, using those keywords, and then changing some stuff in April to address the situation of COVID. So hopefully that paints some picture that don't always pinpoint yourself on the industry, and everybody's changing messages, but they're doing it a little bit differently. Now I'm going to hand it over to my esteemed colleague, Miss Megan.
All right. You want to go to the next slide?
Sure.
For marketing success, we're actually going to talk about just what exactly are you guys doing and what's working out there. So this is an example of Ben. Ben is just starting his college search. He's 17 and he's looking for an in-state school. He's utilizing various platforms across to do his research. He's starting with Google. He sees some things on YouTube. He's also spending some time on Facebook, and he's getting hit along the way. And what's this doing for that particular student is it's engaging them all throughout their decision making, all the way up until they actually influence the college application. So what is the platforms that are working best? If you want to go to the next slide. So these are some of the platforms that we've seen extreme success for. On the search side, people are using Google, Microsoft, also known as Bing. And then these audiences are spending a lot of time on YouTube. They also most of them have Gmail accounts because now most of their classes are actually online. So they're having to answer questions and go through the platforms that way. They're kids. They want to hang out. They want to hang out with their friends. So they're spending a ton of time on Facebook and Instagram and also Snapchat. But not only that, their parents are spending time on Facebook and Instagram. They're probably doing a little bit of research for them as well. They're also at home, they're watching TV, so connected TV, they're streaming across their TV shows that they really want to watch. They're also consuming content with pre-roll video, and then also they're listening to Spotify, they're listening to the radio because they're tired of hearing mom or dad essentially say, go clean your room, stop sitting on the couch playing video games. So they're listening to the music so that they can drown their parents out. Another way that they can do it is through display and native. These are also platforms that are they're online, they're doing research, they see these ads everywhere, and it's organic content that's kind of being thrown at them to learn more about it with native. So how do you reach these actual prospective students and their parents? The easiest way to do this, and a lot of people, when I speak to my customers, they don't actually understand, oh, I can actually hit the students just as easily as I can hit the parents. They think they have to pick one or the other, but you really don't. With Facebook and Instagram, it allows you to actually target the teens and the parents of those high school students. So you see on the screenshots on the left, parents with teenagers 13 to 17, you can hit those parents. But not only that, in high school is also an interest that you can hit. You can hit those kids that are currently in high school. If you want to customize your message a little bit more, you can even do age brackets. So let's say they're freshmen and you want to have a specific message just kind of tailored to them to get them interested, brand awareness. Where could they be thinking about it? Maybe as a sophomore, you customize your message just a little bit. Maybe as a junior and a senior, you're really focusing in on financial aid and how easy it is to apply, and just customizing your message all along that high school experience, but also customizing it for that parent as well. So you can adjust your targeting based off of that. Next up, we're going to see how we can reach them in the individual platforms, not just within Facebook, but also within programmatic. So something that's important to consider is that you can actually target those users as a freshman. You can hit things like parents of school, college entrance exam, high school students, and then you can even get a little bit more out of the box thinking with people that are searching for prom. So they maybe didn't get to go to prom this year, but they were looking for that dress. So they might still have that audience for those people that were looking to go to prom. They've also got general education categories. And then for those that are transferring from school, so maybe they were at a 4-year university, but they're deciding to maybe take it a step back and do both scenarios of like, hey, you know what, it's summertime. I want to go and get a couple of courses knocked out so that whenever school kicks back up again, I'll be ahead of the curve. So they can go for transfers. You can do in market or in college. Currently in college, you can do that across both or all of the platforms, college applicants. And then you can also do, there's a variety of third-party audiences that you can do for in college as well. The biggest thing that I see across all of these items that works extremely well is engaging your audience with video. The reason for that is the sight, the sound, the motion, it drives the emotion. These kids and those parents, they want normalcy. They want to feel like they're going to get the normal experience. So show them that with video. You can engage them safely and show them how they can see and experience the same thing that they might, just a little bit different, but it's still going to feel a little bit more normal. That campus tour that you guys gave, it makes them feel like they're there. So use that content. One of the things that we love about video specifically is that you could really have the opportunity to be authentic. And so some of the best practices that we've compiled is really just consider your audience, use real voices and perspectives of the students. Don't be afraid to use what you have. Photos can be turned into a montage if you don't have the ability to create a video, or you can't convince a student to do it for you. You can take that slideshow essentially, or those 4 or 5 great photos that you have, and create a slideshow or create a montage. You can do it in varying lengths. We have this thing called a bumper ad with YouTube, 6 seconds, real quick, great opportunity, get that message across. You can also do a little bit longer. You can do 15, 30. On Facebook, you can even get up to, I believe it's a minute. YouTube even longer. So you can use a varying length to the purpose that you want. But consider the shelf life and extend use across the platforms. Consider the length of that video and use it where it's going to be engaged with the most. So multiple versions can be chopped into various lengths. And then also you can customize that with various call to actions. Outsource help with students, faculty, staff, and just let them know what they could be doing to help with that. So how do you leverage those videos across multiple platforms? And we'll get into that next with YouTube, connected TV, pre-roll, and even social. So one thing that's cool about YouTube is 63% of the students watch YouTube daily, teenagers being between the ages of 13 and 17. 34% of those are on it multiple times a day. So they're probably having their headphones in, not listening to mom and dad. But what they're also doing is they're actually clicking on the ads. 37% of teens have actually admitted to clicking on a YouTube advertisement to learn more about the video that they're watching. 82% of them have actually shared one of those videos with their parents. So you're actually hitting the parents 82% of the time. On connected TV, imagine a whole family watching TV on the couch together, and a connected TV ad pops up for your school. You're hitting mom, dad, potential student, maybe even little sister, little brother. You're hitting the entire family all in one impression. And you're saying brand awareness, and you're also improving the overall, hey, you should go to that school, son. Pre-roll, leverage the power of leverage the power of programmatic targeting with pre-roll. There's hundreds of sites, hundreds of platforms, and you can sequence that messaging. So you can show them maybe a drone shot of campus. Next you show, but then on the next impression, you show the students having a good time. The third impression maybe is getting hit to mom or dad as well. And you're showing how studious that student is. So you can maximize your efficiency of your investment by making these optimizations and adjusting accordingly. On social, it's an excellent platform based off the opportunity, because you can utilize images, video, carousels, slideshows. There's endless possibilities with what you can do with your actual ads, and you can absolutely customize your call to action based off of what they are actually seeing. We're going to get into a little bit more into some social platforms, specifically with Snapchat next, of just what you can do there. So Snapchat is where your younger high school audience is spending their time. Every single day, 75% of 13 to 34-year-olds are spending time in Snapchat. And the people between 12 and 17, 92% of them are using Snapchat. Just some fun facts about Snapchat: 20 times a day and an average of 30 minutes on the app. That's how much those people are going back. And it, on average, creating 4 billion snaps every single day. We found some stats that we thought were pretty cool about what has changed with Snapchat. So they've actually seen a 30% increase in overall communication within the app. That means they're probably also spending about 30% more time. And then also some areas that were more impacted, they were staying indoors a lot more. There were actually a 50% increase in some of those geos. That screenshot on the right with insights on your audience, you can actually see the demographics of the people that you're hitting. It shows you a little bit of activity of like where they are, what their fans, and what they're doing. So as you can see, the top one is sports fans, 1,300 for this particular client. Next one was high school students. You can actually confirm 1,000 high school students swiped up on my ad and they wanted to learn more. Next up, we have basketball fans. So these are all layered audiences that you can then go in and target.
Yeah, I thought
Now
that.
Megan, to your point.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
We probably have the same thought. I think one thing that is really important about this is this doesn't just have to apply to Snapchat. You can take this information and apply it to your other campaigns across platforms. I think it's just a really great snapshot of what's going on, and maybe you'll find some things out about your audiences that you weren't aware of, and then you can, utilize that in other places.
Would agree.
An excellent point.
Moving on.
Let's do it. So snapping up on that success, here's a real life case study of what we've actually seen for a college in Iowa. The results were great. They spent $9,000. 99% of their website traffic was new visitors. They got 10 scheduled campus tours and 20 completed online application. That's 5,800 new users, leading source next to organic.
Yeah, that one was like a small budget because it was kind of an afterthought, but just to see a small budget have that much impact, it was pretty amazing.
So next, we've talked about Snapchat, we've talked about Facebook, we've talked a little bit about connected TV. What are some other areas that you can hit your audience and make sure that you're building that brand awareness? The one thing I love about streaming audio is that it's such an intimate experience. You're literally in their ears and you can speak to them directly. It's active listening, but a passive action. They're non-skippable ads, and then they can follow you around with a banner ad, just as if you listen to the ad, and then as you look down on your phone, that banner ad is right there. It's also very new. To be honest, there's not a ton of activity here yet, and it's really a big area of growth. But one thing that's interesting is that people are using it. It's a preferred music streaming service between 18 to 29-year-olds. 26% are between 18 and 24. So you can hit those users if you're looking to promote your community college, or you're looking to promote transfers to come in, a wide variety of students within that age demographic. Additionally, there's not just Spotify, there's all these other streaming audio channels that you can actually find your ideal target. And the great thing is you don't have to say, I only want Spotify. You can say, I want to do streaming audio, but I want you to find students. So you don't necessarily have to pick one or the other. You can do both.
Cool.
And this is just an example of listening for success. This is a university in New Jersey. They utilize Spotify, and then they also utilize some retargeting banners or display banners. What they saw was actually a 34% increase in year over year in comparison for online applications and campus tours. So they utilize audio and display targeting to actually boost overall awareness, and they saw some really great results from that. So I mentioned the 34%. They also had a 95% completion rate. I mentioned earlier, you can't skip these ads. Obviously, you can close out the app. So that's very, very small and few. So we have a very high audio completion rate. Also, it's pretty cheap. Every single completed listen was about 3 cents for this particular client.
All right, you want me to take chat, Megan?
Go for it.
Chat, I'm kind of an advocate of this. I just think, a lot of people, it's an afterthought, but it's something that adds so much value to a website. When you have that person pop up, you can choose boy, girl, whatever, picture of whoever. They pop up and ask a question. You're increasing the engagement on your site. You're increasing the customer service. In many cases, you're differentiating your school. I don't see it on a lot of universities. And we offer this to a host of clients. We deal with a lot of different businesses, not just education. So it's very successful across the board. What it offers too is 24/7 coverage. So for a university, a business, now their storefront is open 24/7. And what I think a lot of people get hung up when I see is that, well, I don't have the staff to do that. I don't want just a bot to do it. There's actually chat agents behind the scenes that do this. You give them a script, tell them how to answer it, and they'll do that. And then if you so desire during business hours, if we want to have someone step into the chat bot room and start chatting with people, you can. After each chat, it's sent to whatever email you dedicate, and you get all the information about it. So now you can cover your financial aid questions, any kind of help with an application, scheduling anything. So it's just one more way to engage with them. And it's a pay for performance model. So you only pay when the chats occur. So it makes it very cost effective compared to some other applications. And what we see for conversion-based businesses, and those would be more like attorneys and HVAC, plumbing, and things like that. So it's a little bit different when it comes to schools. But in that case, let's just say someone's giving 1,000 leads a month. We see a 30% increase, and now they're getting 1,300 leads. And conversions, I should say, not just leads, but conversions. So for many businesses, universities, it's an effective way to communicate and drive your cost per action down. So being way more effective with your marketing dollars. And overall, again, I kind of touched on it, it's super easy to implement. A lot of people get hung up on how hard it's going to be to have that. And I'm going to have a chat agent. I'm going to have to do this. You don't. It's really easy. So, if it's something of interest, obviously contact us, or look into it yourself. But it's just a nice addition to a site and a nice way to engage people in that respect and engage these students.
And Bob, to your point too, I think one thing is, I know as a user, a lot of us have gone to a website, we can't find what we're looking for, and you get frustrated, and then you may move on. You may just exit out and say, forget it. this is able to take away some of that frustration. You know, if someone's looking for financial aid or, you know, looking for transfer or whatever, you know, maybe they're not able to find what they need on site navigation. This streamlines that. You can, you know, provide a link, it'll link them right to that, whatever they're looking for. And another thing is you gain information about what people are looking for. So, you know, you're getting the copy of these transcripts as well. So you're able to see like, hey, we have an influx of people looking for transfers. Maybe we should beef up our transfer campaigns. You can really use that in a lot of other places. It's great information. And a lot of chat services are based on an, you know, AI. So they have that artificial intelligence. So as they chat more, as they have more people coming in and having these conversations, they're learning more about your system. They're learning more about where to point people, and, you know, maybe they're pointing them to, you know, just the general transfer page, but they're finding people are really looking for something specific. You know, they're able to just kind of skip that step and get them there a little bit quicker. So there's a lot of great things, and like Bob said, it's not super difficult to implement, and the cost is pretty low as well.
Cool. Thanks for the color commentary. Back to you.
You're welcome.
All right. So one of the other things that you can also do is you can retarget your users that have visited various pages. So for example, if they just went to the homepage, maybe you give them a more brand awareness approach. For classes and when classes resume, you can give them some information about that with a banner ad. You can customize your message based off of what that user is looking for. If they're looking for financial aid, you can give them a way to help make their dreams affordable. I love that ad copy that you threw in there, Bob. Utilizing this personal message and the creative helps them make their decision easier and helps them go back to where they left off. If they really want to learn more about their financial aid or financial assistance, they can go to that ad, or they know that they can come to you. So let's look at taking all of these platforms together, or most of these platforms together, and what did an omni-channel success look like? Over the last 9 months, this college grew. They actually were just on 2 platforms. They were spending about $5,000 a month, but they really wanted to take it to the next level because they felt as though this online program that they were about to launch was going to be super successful for them. So they boosted their spend. They got a ton of return here. 22 million impressions, 636,000 impressions on social, and they got a cost per form fill of $77. So for every new student or potential student that wanted to learn more, it would cost them about $70 to get them into the door and bring them on campus for or online tour.
Yeah, that's impressive.
So one thing that I've seen change a lot recently is the actual searches. So I do a lot of search-based campaigns, and I go in there and I deep dive into exactly what they're searching for. And one thing I've really seen change is how online can be spelled online or on-line. Courses versus classes, course, class. Are they looking for a individual course, or are they trying to understand what are the courses they need to take to get a certain degree? So really what you're doing is you're doing keyword analysis, you're beefing up your landing pages with ad extensions, mobile site optimizations, and then you're also taking it from a geo perspective. You guys mentioned earlier how that college actually expanded their radius because it's going online. You can do that. You can actually set exact boundaries all the way down to the zip code level as well. And then you can take it even further by adding on retargeting, search pacing, and check in on the scripts just for errors and make sure that you're optimizing accordingly. So this was actually another student or another school that did incorporate search. The other one didn't before, but this was actually a brand new program that they were launching, and they really wanted to start off strong. So they utilized search, social, and display in this scenario. And for having almost zero brand awareness outside of the actual school itself for their online program, they actually saw a $252 cost per completed form fill. To me, without having any brand awareness, this is a really strong success. They saw a ton of activity from search. They saw just as much, if not more, activity actually from social. And then they saw equal equal activity from display. So just proving how all three of these platforms together can get them that success that they're looking for.
Awesome. All right. So wrapping this up, looking at my time, 11:50. If you have questions, please write them in the question box. We'll try to get to those as well. But wrapping up, Maria walked us through the Education Interrupted, talking about the state of it right now. I talked about the state of digital marketing, what we're seeing on all these different shifts during COVID and just the acceleration of digital marketing. And we talked about, let's leverage the work that you've already done. You updated your website, you got your virtual tours. Now, how do we message that out? And Megan did a fantastic job of walking through the platforms we're really seeing that are differentiated, where people are finding success, gave you some case studies, exactly what people are experiencing on that. Not all of them are going to be the same, but some platforms that we truly believe can make a difference for you, getting more students in the door, getting helping your finances, and just helping you out overall. So I hope you got some takeaways from that. That's always our goal. We don't really like to tell too much about ourselves, but hey, it's what we're here for too. It's just a little bit about ourselves. We are a Google Premier partner, channel partner with Microsoft, Facebook, and Snapchat. All those badges, what they really mean is they've taken a look at us, they've taken a look at our clients, they take a look at how we service our clients, businesses, and are we doing the right things, and are we representing them effectively? And in all those cases, we have those nice partner badges. We have some awards out there as well. And then, if you liked what you hear, you want us to look at your campaign, you want us to audit that, we'll be happy to do that. You can reach out to us on our email, and we're going to be sending out a follow-up with our contact information and more resources for you. I'm going to tee up the July 23rd video webinar as well. Again, that will be in there, and you'll get a full recording of this. And here's how to get in touch with us as well and look for more information with events and resources. Megan and Maria, you have any further closing thoughts on this?
I think if we have just a minute or two, we had a couple questions. Megan, if you wouldn't mind going over those with me.
I didn't mean to jump ahead.
Okay, Bob.
I asked for questions, and then I almost spaced out on it. Sorry.
You're fine. So, one thing that we see here is, you are, how does your strategy change if you're not offering online classes in the fall, but maybe you're doing that just over summer?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the strategy, how we've actually had this exact experience with one of my clients, and they're focusing more about what courses to get that program, or what can they do to help with those students. They understand that it's more about like engaging that user in the actual campus itself. So they've really adjusted their strategy to focus on what they can do to help them with now, the financial aid element, and then really just building that brand awareness still again as much as possible.
Perfect, thank you. Like just one other, where would you put the bulk of your budget?
I think when looking at the individual campus, you want to look at where your demographics are coming from. If they're skewed a little bit older, like they're in college already and you're a graduate school, you would adjust accordingly a little bit. If you're looking for high school students, I would very much recommend keeping a very solid budget in Snapchat, but keeping it across all of the individual platforms where consumption is currently the most. We're seeing a ton of streaming, we're seeing a ton of Snapchat and a ton of Facebook. So staying there and kind of making sure that the bulk of your budget is across those platforms is going to get you the strongest success.
Yeah, that's great. And I think you really talked about it is, go where your audience is. And I think we know more than anything that could change. So just kind of keep tabs on what you're seeing. The data is really valuable that you're getting on your end too. So I think that's all we had come in. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us. Megan and Bob, thank you for working through this, and we really appreciate everyone's time. Here's some ways, like Bob said, you can get in touch with us. If you have questions or if you're interested in us helping audit some of your campaigns, take a look at what's working and what's not and where we can identify some opportunity. We would love to help you out.
Awesome. Thanks, Maria. Thanks, Megan. Thanks, everyone, for joining.
Have a great day.